across StreamYard's being a little bitch tonight, apparently. Very frustrating when we're professionals here. I'm fucking professional.
She's a fucking professional. No goddammit.
Miss Shorty, you're muted. Miss Shorty, you're muted.
God, yes.
Endearing, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, fake breaks, staying hydrated. It's Shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Trial watching, trials and tribulations. It's Camp Shorty calling all nations. What are you drinking? Shall we skip this part? Left or right-handed? Shit, she slid it to the start. She's a fucking professional. Yo, goddammit. You're muted, what? And daring, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, fake breaks, staying hydrated. It's Shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Psychology corner. Let's learn about stuff. New Miss Shorty music. Calling their bluff. Best chat, best community. We've got the best minds. A safe, supportive sanctuary full of fun and love. Rock out with your cats down. Curse all you want. And here at Camp Shorty, we even say kind. She's a fucking professional. You goddammit. You're muted, what? And daring, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, fake breaks, staying hydrated. It's Shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Hey, Shorties, what's doing, y'all? Get in here, Shorties. Let's fucking go. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. You've come to my attention. Glad you think I have bad intentions. You misinterpret every word I say. Reading the things never there, but hey, don't fuck with me. Game on, oh girl, let's go. Come at me, bro. Come at me, bro. Fuck what I find out. Come at me, bro. I'm the epitome of poison class. Your meager girl, sit down that ass. You need to realize I will call you out, even as I grace you with the benefit of doubt. You've put on quite a show. It's time we talk this out. It's true you're trying to clear my glow, but I'm truly not put out. It's pretty clear you made a choice, my word to misconstrue. But I simply don't hold grudges, so girlfriend, you do you. Perhaps you don't believe it, but trust me, this much is true. If you fuck around, you will find out. So girl, I promise you, don't fuck with me. Game on, oh girl, let's go. Come at me, bro. Come at me, bro. Fuck around and find out. Come at me, bro. You don't believe it, but trust me, this much is true. If you fuck around, you will find out. So girl, I promise you, don't fuck with me. Game on, oh girl, let's go. Come at me, bro. at me, bro. Fuck around and find out. Come at me, bro.
Hey again, Shorties. Hi. The dogs go, hi, we're doing this again. Sorry, I was just madly going, where the fuck? Oh, no, I've sworn in the first minute. Dang nabbit. Where the heck? Pretend I didn't say that, YouTube. Where the heck is the video we need to watch? My history. Yikes. Found it. Just found it like right then. Hi. Hi, everyone. Dogs. Hi. Oh my God. I've only got one pig's ear here. Fantastic. Oh. Hi. Welcome to Psychology Corner. Welcome to Psychology Corner. Who's here? Buster and Poppy are here. Yikes. Guys. I should have gotten more pig's ears. What if I give you one to fight over? That should be fantastic. There's more over there, but I'm not over there. I'm here. Poppy's going to cry. Hang on. Let me play one thing. Let me play one quickly because I can't do that to Poppy. That's not fair. That's not fair. Hang on. Let's watch Baby Buster. What did she say to me the other day? She goes, hi, did you know that today is World Turtle Day? She said, special shout out to an Australian turtle, something, can't remember, that has these a few different things and says, and breathes out of its genitals. What a rebel. And I was like, nice. Thanks, Alexa. Baby Shorty. Oh my God, we got so many baby Shorties. Yikes. She's so cute. Now, wait, hi. Hi, hidden metadata. Good to see you. Let me say hi to people. Hi. Yeah, but I think it's the talking. Anyway, it's fine. Pretty. Shunned one. Sorry, my brain just buffered. Lol. Tony, fuck yeah. Gifts. Wait, what? Shunned one. Excuse me, I'm dying. We're all dying. Thanks, girl. Welcome, new Shorties. Tony with his fuck yeah gifts. You're great. Okay, so I'm going to say hi to more people. I'll put my glasses on. Vanity's a curse. I really can't see any better with these things on. It's just like the illusion of vision. Hi, Colours. Good to see you. Thanks, Jay. Look, I've got my free Turtle Boy cap on. You just can't see it. You can't see it because of the white. There we go. Free Turtle Boy. And while I think of it, I've got my, wait, I just pulled the hair out. Hungry little caterpillar earrings on from Shunned One. Hi, Mary Flynn. And here's the caterpillar turned into a butterfly. 50 pairs of earrings for a 50-year-old bird. So I've got it all happening. I've got a look. It's a vibe. Cheryl's here. Mary, did I say hi, Mary? Thanks for being here, everybody. Hi, y'all on Twitter, on X. If you're watching, if you're scrolling past, stop, collaborate, and listen and watch. So Hank's Liar's got it. Fantastic. That's awesome. I love when thanks, Jay. I'm a style unto myself. 50. So Psychology Corner. I happened upon this video. It's actually an interview with that Dr. Ramani, friend of the channel, definitely an honorary shorty, even if she doesn't know it, did with someone called, excuse me, Dr. Rangan Chattergee. He probably is a shorty too. It's a man who has 1.2 million subscribers. So these are some big folks. These are some, I was going to say Neanderthals. That's not the word. And then I want to say monolith. That's not the word either. I don't know. Big channel. Monolith will do. Monolithic. Sorry, a little bit stir crazy. In the world of he's a doctor. They're both doctors, so we're going to do some talking about and learning and stuff. But it's a really, because it's kind of, we'll see. But she breaks down some really useful, interesting concepts that maybe like massive Princey, that's what she said. Breaks down some really some concepts we've talked about that probably more than likely I don't articulate hugely well. And I think a lot of the Dr. Ramani stuff we've watched in the past has maybe been further down the line than an ABC's, like a sort of a back to basics. Thank you. I don't know if Mogul works better than Neanderthal, Jay. 100% better than Neanderthal. I don't think either of them are Neanderthal. Oh, Ms. What the fuck just gave me some breaking news. If you weren't in the week that was our last stream, we covered many stories. You should come next week if you weren't there before. But sadly, we covered a story about a guy, not even a patient, who was pulled into an MRI machine. He was wearing a necklace and it got caught. He got put in. He actually passed away. He died. Yikes. Yikes. Thank you for letting us know, Ms. What the fuck. Jeez Louise. Jeez Louise. I guess his family will have, like, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Obviously not the point. That's tragic. And I guess thoughts and prayers go out to the family and to the man. Yeah, wow. Jeez. Well, that was just it was a freak accident. Fuck. That shit's heavy. So shall we just get into it? We'll watch a little bit here. It's like it's an interview, so it's question answer. No, I agree. I agree. I mean, narcissism isn't hugely light either. And Princey says those magnets are powerful. Well, yes. We obviously had like Pierre said in the last stream, it must have been a badass necklace. And, wow. So it's question answer. Really, I think, you know what? Shh, stop talking, Shorty. Hey, don't forget to hit the like. Wait, there's a few more things. Wait. Replay crew, hi. Hi. Replay crew, hi. If you would like to watch the live chat replay on your handheld device, I do try to put the comments up on screen, but if you'd like to watch it in real time, it's easy. All you do is swipe left on the comment tab and it'll give you the option to watch the live chat replay. I want to say instead, but can I say as well as dropping a comment? Because comments and engagement do make a big difference to the algorithm. And while we're on that note, if you're going to watch Replay Crew, I'd love you to watch the whole thing. If you don't really want to watch the whole thing, we will have timestamps. I'm doing the timestamps. So you can skip through. It just makes such a difference if YouTube thinks you watched the whole thing. Oh, you could. I don't know. I'm begging now. I'm begging for engagement. Hi, Kathy. Good to see you. So with that out of the way, let's get this up on the screen. And so he's a Brit, an English guy, very well spoken. Oh, there's a poll? Cool. I'll vote as Miss Shorty Music. Yes. Wait. So let's go. Oh, it's muted. Excellent.
How they are. They just speak their mind. And I'm thinking that's not what this is. And so I feel like clinically, people who have been affected by these relationships have been woefully undertreated and underserved. That's number one. But the number two reason is, why are we so fascinated? Why do we reward them so much? They make more money. They just do better by societal metrics. I don't know that they're doing better in existential metrics, but then it's the harm they do and how little we have really talked about this. And I think that's really where my fascination comes from.
If we just take it from the top then, what is narcissism?
Yeah.
What's the definition? And how do we know if we're dealing with a narcissist somewhere in our lives?
So there's sort of two ways to approach this. And I think that because your second question, raises already some difficulties with that first part of the question. So let's talk about what narcissism is. Narcissism is a personality style. And we have to remember we all have personalities, right? Just people who are different.
Sorry,
don't have personalities. You have one, I have one. Everyone has one, right? And it gives us almost a blueprint and a way to predict how we're going to go through the world. We know how, by knowing someone's personality, we have a good working model of how they're going to respond to stress, how they're going to
Princey says, yikes, bad hair day. Dr. Ramani I don't give a fuck about shit like that. She has a very low hairline, like very low on her forehead. And she's also going grey. So when her regrowth is growing out, it's not the best look. But honestly, you should see my hair like every day of my life. Nightmare.
Going to respond to joy, how they're going to be in relationships, how they're going to approach many areas of their life. We can really, it's a decent predictive model. It's not absolute, but it's pretty good. So that's what personality is, right? We, again, all have one. Narcissism is a personality style. Now, it's in a sort of a specific area of personality styles that are more maladaptive and rigid and put them at odds with other people, but it's just one more style. And it's a style that's characterized by a series of patterns that hang together: variable and low empathy, entitlement, grandiosity, arrogance, envy of other people, or they think other people envy them. They often live in sort of a fantasy world. They're very selfish. They can be very controlling. They don't handle disappointment and stress well. And at those times, they'll often rage at other people, blame them, not take responsibility or accountability. They're very superficial, they're vain, they're shallow, they're very focused on status and appearance and sort of very, sort of external characteristics. Many narcissistic people also have the personality quality of extroversion, though there's a subset that are a little bit more introverted. But all of that together, all this grandiosity and arrogance and entitlement, all this stuff I'm talking about, it's like a suit of armor around a deep-seated insecurity. Narcissistic people sort of are a cauldron of shame. So when they do get criticized, where the rest of us we may not like it, and we might say, but they've got a point. If you've got this deep, fragile ego and an insecurity and the shame, when somebody gives you feedback on your behavior, it becomes explosive, and that gets lashed out at other people. So that chronic insecurity is kept at bay by them sort of bejeweling themselves with all of these defenses. And that's how that shows up. So to your next question, and this is where it gets tricky, how do we know someone in our life is narcissistic? I almost think coming to that sense of are they narcissistic is less important than giving yourself permission to look at the patterns being the key word here, that of behavior that someone around you is showing. The fact is, somebody listening to this is not saying, well, yesterday, someone I know for the first time got mad at me. That you don't know that they're narcissistic. This is usually months, years, lifetimes of observing someone, observing how they are under stress, observing how they are in terms of equity and shared responsibility, observing how they are in terms of empathy, observing how they are in terms of whether or not they think they're more special than other people. It's a pattern. It hangs together. That's the nature of personality. The stuff goes together. So people, and I tell folks, don't get lost in the weeds of wanting to precisely figure out if this is a narcissist. You're giving me a laundry list of behavior this person engages in regularly, and it's not good for you. And I can promise you, the more problematic the behavior and the more consistent it is, the less likely it is to change. So, by the time I'm done with the conversation,
I'm just going to pause to say, hi, Lois. Good to see you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. One of the things I liked about this is it's not all about relationships, like being in an intimate partner relationship with a narcissist, because goodness knows we come across toxic people, assholes, and narcissistic folks daily. No one uses dry shampoo. Is that a question? Wait, I use dry shampoo every day of my life. Is that the poll? Best thing for bad hair day: dry shampoo. I go through cans of it. 100%. 100%. Ugh, my Miss Shorty music channel doesn't have premium, and I've got a fucking ad. Sorry about that, chat. My grifting is biting me in the ass. All right, let's keep going with Dr. Ramani.
With somebody, give me a couple of hours, I'll be like, yeah, no, this is probably narcissism. But I think in our lives, I think we have to get less away. We have to get away from that. Are they narcissistic? Are these patterns consistent? Yeah, they probably are. And the more consistent the patterns, the less likely to change. The less likely to change, the more our decisions about this relationship have to come from that. They're not going to change. So what am I going to do?
So much there to unpick, right? If we go through that list of behaviors, traits that you just outlined, I would say many people, if not all people, can exhibit some of those traits from time to time. Superficiality, a lack of empathy, envy, being vain, an over focus on external validation. And I would say a lot of people, I think, exhibit certain, what you could call negative traits of their personality when they're under high degrees of stress. And many people in society across the world these days are feeling under a huge amount of stress. So I'm guessing this is a continuum, and it's not the odd time where you're showing up some of these behaviors. It's more, is this the pattern of your behavior?
Yeah. So I'm glad you framed it that way, because one of the things that many people grapple with is this idea of, am I the narcissist? Because I've been entitled. I'm the one who said, hey, wait a minute, I'm the first one in line, or that I haven't listened to my friend's problem the way I should have and didn't have empathy for her problem, or I blew up at someone because I was having a bad day. What we also have to look at is how a person takes responsibility. We may do those things, blow up at the person when we're having a bad day. But in a healthy person, you see some attempt at making amends pretty quickly thereafter, and a willingness to take responsibility. So a sense of, I am so sorry. I had no right to yell at you like that. I just had no right. I'm sorry I hurt you. Are you okay? So if a person, now they can't do that every day. Like they can't scream at you and apologize, scream at you, apologize. But when a person has a fall from grace, and there is that attempt to make amends, take accountability, show self-awareness, and not blame other people or give flimsy excuses, I don't consider that narcissism. I consider that being a human being. The narcissism piece is the consistency, as you said, but it's also the unwillingness to ever take responsibility, right? And so you bring up the issue, which is a very important one, that narcissism isn't an either or, yes, no, black, white. It's very much on a continuum. And I think that's why, and not only is it on a continuum, there are several subtypes, which is why two people in narcissistic relationships may be having very different experiences from each other. On the severity side, on the lowest ends of narcissism, sort of what we could call it mild narcissism, you have people who are superficial, vapid, vain, attention-seeking, emotionally immature and stunted. I honestly have to say they're a little bit harmless. Their lack of empathy really comes from this idea that they're almost more caught up in childlike or adolescent concerns, even though they're an adult, and they're not able to attend with the proper attention to sort of grown-up problems, as it were. So while they may be sort of charming as a friend, they may not be good people to be long-term partners. It would not make good parents, that kind of thing, right? But not as sort of psychologically harmful as we'd see at the severe end of the spectrum, which is things like malignant narcissism, what we call the dark tetrad, where psychopathy...
Pausing for a minute. Sorry, Dr. Ramani. Great explanation. The theme of this really well broken down, sort of granular explanation of things. It's a fantastic interview. I was like, well, this is really helpful. I wish I'd found this. This video's had 810,000 views. So
narcissism, Machiavellianism, which is sort of the willingness to take advantage of other people, and sadism all come together. That's a whole nother game. These are people who are coercive, exploitative, manipulative, isolating, menacing. That's almost terrifying, right? Tremendous harm to people who are in those relationships. Most of us who encounter narcissistic people are catching people in the middle. A moderate narcissism, that's not just that sort of mild, silly, attention-seeking, aren't I cute on Instagram narcissism, but certainly not that menace. But the moderate narcissism can do a number on us because there are enough good days to keep you hooked, but the bad days leave you questioning yourself. And after enough time, people in these relationships start to feel like they're a bad person, that they lack capability, that there's something wrong with them. Like, that's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
So that continuum can give us a sense of why it can look so different. Not everyone who posts a selfie is narcissistic, but a person where that becomes their reason for living, they will get irritable with other people who won't take the picture of them, or won't like the picture of them. It's all they talk about. They talk about that over being there for other people. Now we're in narcissism, right? Person who takes a selfie is the person who's taken a selfie.
Pause. There's a new poll, conversation starter. Thanks, Miss What the Fuck. Does it seem like, wait. Oh, let me read the verbiage. Does it feel like everyone is a narcissist? So interesting. And I think that tags on nicely. Wait, hang on. Well, BRB, Mrs. Dr. Ramani, BRB. Princey says, yeah, Lois, before I go to Princey, Lois, the link to this video is in the description box of this, so the link to what we're watching is in the description box already, so you can go back and watch it a second time. Princey said, raised by narcissistic people makes you fear that you are too. And then she says, yeah, she's got a fantastic mic. Wait. And then she says, see, I don't hurt people. I don't harm anyone else. Princey, I don't think you're a narcissist at all. And generally, in my experience and what I've heard from all of the experts who speak on that, if you're pondering whether you're a narcissist, you're almost certainly not a narcissist, because narcissists do not do any self-reflecting of that kind of well-adjusted, introspective soul searching. They just don't. They don't have the capacity. They don't have the depth. And we've done a show, I think, on the overlap, the Venn diagram between narcissism and neurodivergence or PTSD trauma stuff. If you're wondering if you're a narcissist, it's almost certain that you're not. So rest assured.
So I think it's making those sorts of discernments really, really matters. But I also think that we all have our ungraceful days.
Yeah.
Healthy people take accountability for those days, and they apologize properly so that the other person feels whole and there's a place to grow from.
Yeah, really helpful. Thank you. Another thought I had when reading your latest book, and also when you were just going through that list of behaviors, is that some of those patterns, or some of those traits at least, like a need for external validation, are often adaptive traits to how we were brought up, right? So let's say we didn't feel we were unconditionally loved by our parents. Well, we develop all kinds of compensatory patterns for that, which serve us in childhoods and often don't serve us when we become adults. Where does narcissism fit into that framework? Is it something you're born with, or can it be an adaptive pattern to trauma or, parenting styles, for example?
So again, there's a couple of things sort of there, which is that need for external validation being a human one. That's absolutely the case. In fact, human beings who don't need external validation are the ones who are non-normative, because we are a social species. We want to be noticed. We feel good when people think we did good. That's normal. And so the problem becomes when that becomes the only motivator, right? So there's no internal goal-driven system. So the narcissistic person will set their goals not on what internally matters to them, but to what they think the world wants them to be, right? That's where the grandiosity comes. I'm going to have $1 billion, and I'm going to have a yacht, and I'm going to have this, and I'm going to have that. But it's all sort of ephemeral, and it's all sort of like, I'm going to deliver the world what it wants, so it thinks I'm great. But really, we have no idea what gives a narcissistic person meaning or purpose, because they don't know. So there's a lot of internal sort of emptiness as a result of that, right? So it's not the need. So again, need for external validation is just one of the many things that comprises narcissism, right? If a person has a fever, we don't automatically assume they have bronchitis. There's a whole list of things they could have. That's one thing, is a fever. So I'm like, now we're going to do more tests. The same thing with need for external validation. We all have it to greater or lesser degrees. But when that becomes a singular motivating space, that's a concern. Now, like you said, that need for external validation may be a compensatory mechanism for childhood. Here's the thing. Most of us did not grow up with unconditional love. Most people, they did not. They grew up with parents where it was very clear, if you do well in school, you will be loved more. If you help around the house, you will be loved more. If you do the things the parent wants, you get more of their regard. It's very rare for people who have gotten truly unconditional love. So every kid has gone through this, but it is certainly part of what could have been the entire sort of sequelae of what, or the constellation of stuff that contributes to why someone becomes narcissistic, which takes us to that question, right? How do people become narcissistic? And so it's multi-determined. And the pathways that make people narcissistic, just as often, more often, I would say, don't result in narcissism. So that's part of the trick here. We can tell the story backwards. Now, the pathway of adversity, okay? So these are kids who are grown up in adversity, neglect, abuse, lots of conditional love, do what I tell you to do, serve my needs, be what I want you to be. And that's the only way you're going to get love, kind of thing. That's certainly a vulnerability pathway for narcissism. But even that said, most kids who grow up under conditions of adversity, neglect, trauma, abuse, conditionality, all of that, attachment disruptions, don't go on to develop narcissism. They may go on to develop many other things, complex trauma, severe anxiety, all of that, addiction, but not necessarily narcissism. There's another pathway though. And the other pathway to develop narcissism is one of over specialness. This is really interesting research that's been coming out of the Netherlands from people like Eddie Bromans and others who are suggesting that telling the child that they're more special than any other child, not just that they're special. All kids are special and all kids should know they're special. But kids who are told, you're more special than that kid. You shouldn't have to wait in line the same way. You should get more time playing soccer. You should get the better teacher. You're more special. So in essence, they're indoctrinated into a sense of entitlement. That is also considered a risk factor for narcissism. These are kids who may not learn to regulate. These are kids who might get a lot of material needs met, fabulous vacations and theme parks and stuff and the newest gadget, but parents may not be emotionally available. The parents themselves may be narcissistic. That is also a pathway to developing narcissism. But in the same breath, the majority of kids raised that way don't become narcissistic. So the pathways are clear. And I've worked with many narcissistic clients in my practice. And when we work backwards, I've always seen in therapy more of the adversity path than the spoiled child path, but I've seen both. And that's where it comes from. And it's not just compensatory. So the defenses certainly come out to protect the child, but there are many people out there who are raised very conditionally, right? You need to perform for us. You need to be the perfect student or the perfect ballet dancer or piano player, whatever the heck your parents wanted. And those people may grow up not sort of living and dying by external validation, but sort of feeling they're not good enough. You know, like
Princey says, I have missed Dr. Ramani. Yes, it was time. New poll. Do these pathways, is it pathways? Do these risk factors hit home? Yes. Ms. What the Fuck and I had a conversation yesterday because we were sharing, I was sharing some of my baby photos because we were doing a Discord competition for your Discorders to be able to see if you can pick which mod and shorty baby photos belong to each adult mod and shorty. In the Discord, winner will get something off the merch store. Just a bit of fun, something special for the Discord folks. But Ms. What the Fuck was telling me how adorable I was. And I'm like, you know what? My parents never, ever, 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 like never, ever, 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 ever once, ever, ever told me I was pretty or beautiful or anything. Nothing. Like never. They also didn't help me set goals. I haven't posted it yet, Cheryl, but I'm going to put it in. I've got to do it this weekend. I just had to dig out my own baby photos out of my garage in a box. So stay posted. But yes, so I don't know whether that's why I seem to feel especially needy for some validation, but at the same time, I fucking hate it when people comment on my looks. I'm like, yeah, that's great. It's the least impressive thing about me. Anyway, let's get back to Dr. Ramani. external validation is not something I need. I saw colors saying I don't need any external validation. There will be a psychological reason for that. It'll be something to do with your childhood, I'd say. Who knows what? Because I'm not diagnosing, but yeah. Everybody's
like
different, though, right?
I don't think I'm smart, or I don't think I'm talented. And so they may continually have an internal dialogue where they're putting themselves down, but they retain empathy. They're not entitled. They're kind, well-regulated, compassionate people. They're just not kind to themselves. That's not narcissism.
Now, if some of narcissism is
also, ladies, look carefully. You can see his nipples sometimes because he doesn't have an undershirt underneath there. So that's not suggesting Princey and what the fuck you keep an eye out for the outline of his nipples, but you can see them. So thirst trap.
Adaptive, if some of it is,
mm-hmm.
then do you think that rates of narcissism are going up? I mean, we know rates of perfectionism, for example, have been going up dramatically since the 1980s. And perfectionism is associated with all kinds of negative problems.
Mm-hmm.
Is narcissism also going up? And I guess the wider point is, how long has narcissism been present in humanity? I mean, do we know that? Because it's interesting, why would we have this trait? What's the point of narcissism in the first place if it wreaks havoc on so many people in its wake?
Sorry, Zimmy.
Right. So
He
it depends on how you're using the term adaptive, right? Is it adaptive for reproductive fitness using an evolutionary Darwinian model? Is it adaptive for human relationships? Is it adaptive in the workplace? The answer to those questions is yes to some of them and no to others. I think that there are certain things that are something that's adaptive in the workplace is not adaptive in an intimate relationship. Yeah. Okay. So there's to the orthogonal going in opposite direction. And I think what we often think is, well, they're successful at work, so they must be successful. I'm like, no, they're successful at work. They're a terrible partner. They're a terrible parent, but good God, they're blowing it up at work. Okay. So adaptability is going to vary on that basis. So let's go down to brass tacks and let's talk about evolution, right? So that brings us down to its basic nature. There has always been narcissism in human beings. We're a hominid species, one step away from a primate species, and we're hierarchical as a result. We're hierarchical and we're social. We live in social groups and we do have hierarchies. Guess who's at the top of the hierarchy? The human alpha is a narcissist, okay? So it's not just adaptive in the 21st century. It's been adaptive since there have been human beings, since there was a bigger cave.
Pause, Dr. Ramani, sorry, ma'am, love you. Take a moment to think about, in our world today, whether it's your workplace, your family dynamic, the channels you watch, who are the alphas? You don't need to type it in, just thought exercise. There are alphas everywhere.
Cave to have, since there was a better fire to have, since there was a bigger, bison to kill. There's always been narcissism, right? And these people have been at the top of the food chain. I'm going to give you an interesting example. It's an example I used with my undergraduate students for years when I was teaching at the university. It comes from Dr. Robert Sapolsky's research, and I'm sure you're very familiar with Robert Sapolsky, who I think is literally one of the greatest thinkers of our time. And his research, as I think he's a neuroimmunologist, I believe, has been primate based. And I'm going to simplify his research, but it gives us insight to how this sort of so-called adaptability and how it affects other people. So in this, he followed various sort of troops of baboons, right? And baboons are relatively aggressive. I mean, I think primates in general are not a nice species, and hominids aren't much better, to be honest with you. But so what he found was that he followed these various tribes. He was able to get blood samples for them. He could look at cortisol, was usually the marker that he was looking at, higher cortisol, higher stress. He already noticed that there was a hierarchy in the troops. There were alphas, that would sort of take all the goodies for them and make life miserable for everyone, including the females, the juveniles, and the non-dominant males, right? The non-dominant males and the females got along fine. There was a lot of mutual grooming. But when the alphas were around, again, they made everyone's life miserable, okay? So the alphas were, in essence, narcissistic baboons. And in one of the troops he was studying, the alphas all there was like a safari park, like is where human beings would be. And they got their hand in the garbage can. They found.
Gotta say hi to Mazza. Hey, Mazza, what's doing? Good to see you. How's things? Long time no see. We're just over here in Psychology Corner watching Dr. Ramani talk about, I don't know, the evolution of the species and narcissism. Tony, I was wondering the same thing. As soon as she said baboons, I thought about their butts. I don't know. I am who I am.
Found tainted food, and all the alphas died. No more alphas, just juveniles, females, and non-dominant males. And I'd always ask my students, so what happened? What happened in that truth? A lot of the students assumed that the non-dominant males would have stepped up to the position and taken that alpha position. That's not what happened. Mm-hmm. What happened in Sapolsky's research was in that alpha-less tribe, in essence, all the narcissistic baboons died. The tribe got healthier. Their cortisol levels dropped. There was more cooperative grooming, and the tribe functioned better. He figured over time it was going to change because juveniles swap tribes when they get to adolescence in baboons. So new crop of alphas would have come in. Mm-hmm. But I found that research so compelling because if you talk to anybody who has to interact with narcissistic people, workplace, family, and they say, ooh, those family members didn't come to this dinner. It was so much nicer. Those people were moved to another office. It's so much more peaceful. So the adaptability is for the narcissistic people. They've adapted beautifully. They are the alphas. They've always been at the top of the hierarchy. Our history books are written about them. They have been the kings. They have been the leaders. They have been the warriors. Frankly, they've been the innovators, right? So they've always been the ones we paid attention to. They always had more money. They always had more resource. They took what they wanted. And so if you're going to argue adaptability, I'd say, heck yeah, they were adaptable. That doesn't mean you want to be in a relationship with them.
Yeah. So interesting. Thank you for sharing that. That I wasn't aware of that. That is really, really interesting. In particular, that in the alpha less
nipples
group, everyone gets healthier.
Yes, everyone gets healthier. That's the key. That's the key.
I mean, there's a couple of ways to really think about.
Sorry, Dr. Chatterjee. Okay, another thought exercise. Those of you who've had experiences, interactions with narcissists on whatever level, think about how much better you feel within yourself, your sense of calm, well-being, happiness, satisfaction with your life and yourself, the less agitation, how much, yes, Princey, the body keeps the score. The body does keep the score. Just have a think about it. You just feel, you know what, even getting rid of toxic people off your feed, off your social media feed, whether that's Facebook or like people who are all about themselves and don't seem to show any empathy and are quite aggressive in the way they comment, even if they're not coming at you, they're maybe still just being dickheads. It just feels so much better. You feel so much better when you have them out of your life, which is why when, like, my parents have now disowned me for 8 years, 10 years, I don't know, time, whatever. But before then, there was many periods in my life where I would distance myself and go through no contact phases with both of them, narcissistic parents, just so I could breathe again. So when people say you should have contact with your family, their family, no, not if it's affecting your own emotional regulation, your own sense of well-being. Absolutely not. Toxic people are toxic people. So that, anyway, back to Mr. Nipples. I mean, Dr. Chatterjee. No, I can't see a nipple there.
About that. Initially, I think, well, a world without narcissists would probably be calmer, more compassionate, full of empathy, and everyone gets healthier. But of course, narcissism is very common. So I'm not advocating for a world without narcissists, just to be clear in that sense, because they're everywhere. In fact, do you know how common it is?
I don't advocate for a world without narcissists because I don't ever want anyone to be harmed or just, be told that they don't belong. I would advocate for a world without narcissism. That's what I would advocate for. Or a world without rewarded narcissism, if that makes sense, To your other point, though, which is the frequency. This is the question we're grappling with, right? Because there's lots of research out there that looks at the prevalence of narcissistic personality disorder. It's epidemiologic research where people have done structured clinical interviews, usually in clinical settings. And it's complicated to get this data because if you look at like a standard outpatient, like a person's private practice, the rates aren't going to be that high because these are not people who voluntarily seek out therapy. If you go to inpatient settings, you might see it more because there'd be more involuntary patients. If you go to prisons, you see a lot more prison mental health statistics are higher. But on average, narcissistic personality disorder, depending on the research study you're looking at, is somewhere between 1% and 6%. But the real question is, what is the prevalence of clinically significant narcissistic personality, not disorder, personality, enough that other people would notice it, enough that it impacts their behavior, enough that it would cause, I would say, significant impacts in the relationships, workplaces, whatever places that these people are navigating. And that's the question, right? And I've seen sort of spitball numbers floating out there of anywhere from like 1 in 6, 1 in 5. So somewhere between 15, 18, 19%. So about, somewhere between like 1 in 6, 1 in 5. Some of this is going to have to do with geography. You're going to see this personality trait probably more prevalent in major metropolitan areas where the employment is going to pull for it more. But that's probably a good guess. So if you know 6 people, odds are that one of them is narcissistic, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah, and also it's really hard because the point you made right at the start of this conversation is that this is a topic that needs more awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
People aren't talking about it enough. The medical profession probably not recognizing it enough. And therefore, how do you get good research on this? How do we get those numbers when, it could be heavily skewed because of this lack of awareness? And could you just briefly clarify the difference that you mentioned? Narcissistic personality disorder, a diagnosis made by a healthcare professional, and clinically noticeable
narcissism. Yeah, enough narcissism that other people notice it.
Just briefly explain the difference, because I think that often gets confusing for people as well.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about I'm going to talk about that research piece first. How do we study? How do we even figure out how many people are narcissistic? I'm going to tell you the answer to that. I really don't know, because we don't have any good measurement scales. The problem is narcissism is so multifaceted. The most widely used narcissism scale, I don't think it does the trick, because it gets a lot at things like assertiveness and leadership. So it gets at all the sort of forward-facing, grandiose kind of qualities, but not at the stuff that really does the harm. A little bit, it gets at entitlement. It's hard to get people to fess up to their narcissism. The research shows very clearly narcissistic people actually judge themselves as being very empathic, very nice people. So they're not going to answer these questions honestly. So it's a really difficult quality to assess. We'd almost do better asking other people what the people in their lives are, but then there's a bias there too. So it's very difficult to study this. But then again, to this difference, right? The reason we're able to do more research on narcissistic personality disorder is that there are structured interviews for that. But I have to be frank with you, I've used these structured interviews with hundreds of research patients in the past. And even then, I have to tell you, the rates we were getting were low because people weren't copying to this, or they were copying to much more severe things. So we weren't capturing them because of the nature of the populations we were working with. So the difference between narcissistic personality disorder and narcissism really comes down to some technical issues. Is A, this person has been seen by a licensed mental health professional who has the capacity to actually make this diagnosis. And that would mean they know enough about NPD to do it. They've spent enough time with the client to be able to do it. I'm not even convinced I could spend an hour with a client and confidently be able to issue that diagnosis. I'd have to say, when I've seen this in outpatient settings, somewhere around session 4, session 5, so hour 4 or hour 5, it would come out. When I worked in inpatient settings, maybe after the first couple of days, because you'd have more time with them. It's a more intensive kind of an exposure. So
pause. Dr. Ramani, sorry. She's doing lots of beautiful pauses today. Usually we get dirty pauses from Dr. Ramani. For me, I tend to, not necessarily by choice, but be immersed in a prospective narcissist. Poppy, please. She's like, you haven't finished all your cheese. Can I have some? So I've gotten my detection phase down to a very fine art. 20 messages. The better they are at hiding it. It's always messages. I can pick them IRL straight off the bat. My radar is finely attuned. But I do think you get better at spotting them. So Cheryl, before you said that it took you years of working with your now ex, who before he was your partner, your boyfriend, he hit it so well. They generally don't. The real overt, covert ones don't necessarily, because you don't have to spend any time with them, proper intimate time. It's when they get their hooks into you, whether that's the boss or the colleague or, I mean, family, you know, you're a literal captive audience as a child to a narcissistic parent, right? But in a prospective partner point of view, I'm like, no, get out of here. My red flags are flying. My red flag detective's flying. Your red flags are flying. You're wearing a fucking coat. So a coat of red flags. Thanks, Bob. Got my free Turtle Boy hat on. I can't see it. There we go. Can you see it? There we go. Free Turtle Boy and a blouse because the baseball hat is so cute. Thanks. It's my Turtle Boy cap. I've got Miss Buster. I've got Miss Shorty caps on order, but they're taking a while because they come from the States. So yeah, that.
So what we're looking for when we give the diagnosis of a personality disorder is that laundry list of qualities. I gave you the lack of empathy and the entitlement and the grandiosity, on and on. We have to establish that it's consistent, that it shows up in a variety of situations, and also that these patterns are causing the patient clinically significant relationship impairment, occupational impairment, or distress. This is where narcissistic personality disorder gets tricky. The vast majority of people who are narcissistic don't show up to therapy. They don't think there's anything wrong with them. They think they're better than everybody else. When they find...
See, Princey, you're showing up to therapy 3 times a week. Am I right? Once a week for sure. Narcissists, sorry, Dr. Ramani. Narcissists don't. They're like, I'm fine. They're pretending they're fine. I can't admit that I'm not fine because that would be shameful to a narcissist.
Finally do come into therapy. They're coming in for another issue. Their spouse has given them an ultimatum. They're struggling with addiction. They may be having an irritable depression. They are anxious. They're having an existential crisis. They're upset about growing old. Their workplace is demanding they go into therapy for optics reasons. They're court ordered. So they get into therapy through a back door that's not necessarily related to narcissism. So it's not like a depressed patient where that's the presenting issue, right? They're coming in with something else. It's the therapist's job to sort through all that. And most therapists, unfortunately, get caught in on the presenting diagnosis. We think about this too medically versus what else is going on here. It's a big problem in addiction research, in addiction treatment. 60% overlap between narcissism and addiction, which is why there's so much revolving door stuff and there's so much relapse because the narcissism doesn't get addressed. So these are the things that bring folks in. And because of that, we're not seeing them in clinical situations. And even when we do, something else is grabbing our attention. But that's the difference is most people who are narcissistic, not only is this trait not causing them impairment, they seem to be doing better for it. They make aggressive business deals. They're willing to step over other people to get to the head of the line. They're really attractive and they put themselves out there and they're suave and charismatic and charming. So they're successful in at least getting partners, not keeping partners, but getting partners. But they don't think of themselves as impaired, so they're not distressed. When they finally get distressed, though, it's not the narcissism that's distressing them. It's some problem. My wife is leaving me. I got caught in my affair. I got caught harassing people in the workplace. I didn't get the promotion I thought I would. My startup failed. That's the stuff that makes narcissistic people get into therapy. And then they go into therapy and they blame everyone else. And they want the therapist to climb on the bandwagon and sort of say, yeah, everyone's out to get you. And when the therapist doesn't do that, they often drop out of therapy.
And I guess for practical.
Sorry, Dr. Chatterjee. One's in the chat if you can think of someone who, in hindsight or even at the time, is very clearly has narcissistic traits. And when you call them out, not necessarily that they're a narcissist, but perhaps their behavior is a little toxic, they're like, woo, for me, no. Tony can. Tony knows. Tony's dealt with someone like that. You can think of a time. Simi, thank you. Yes. Like the list, the limit of the number does not exist of the number of people that I can think of who, when I've been set some boundaries or said, hey, that's not cool. When you say that to me, doesn't make me feel good. Or, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. And they're like, wah! Hi. Oh, hey, narcissist. What's up?
Practical purposes, whether someone has the actual disorder or not, really, I think the message you're trying to put out is that the impact of narcissistic behavior is profound. It is causing such carnage basically in people's lives. They feel invalidated, they feel guilty, they feel that they're the problem, and you're trying to say no, the problem isn't you. You're a recipient of narcissistic behavior, and I want to help you feel seen and heard. Just taking a quick break to give a shout out to...
Look at his snazzy hairdo there. Bit of Zac Efron brushed forward. Metadata says, don't we all know people like that? Yes. I think as you get older and more wizened to this kind of behavior, you can identify that reaction, that response was disproportionate to my request or my comment to said person, said asshole. So I'm skipping through Mr. Nipples. Oh no, you want to see this. More and more we understand and go, I see this behavior, but perhaps we're a skewed cross section of people with awareness. Some people might not get it. They might be like, oh wow, I really hurt their feelings. Gee, ooh, I shouldn't have said what I said. No, you should. This is just a fucking fuckhead. Hang on, look at his hairstyle. He's got so much hair. Oh, sorry, dirty paws. Boom, Tony. When you are no longer their puppet, then they want to punish and banish you. Yes, until they decide to hoover you back in with perhaps coming into chat with some gifted memberships or what? Okay, Dr. Chattergee. Oh, dirty paws.
You look at the comments on the numerous videos you have made on YouTube on this topic. There's a really common theme, Dr. Ramani, which is people say, thank you. Oh my God. Now I have a name for what I've been putting up with.
Lisa, keep watching.
That's why you do it, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is. Because I think for the longest time, because of the way narcissism shows up in relationships, people in a relatively short period of time blame themselves. This is my fault. Maybe I could be better.
See?
Maybe I could try harder. What's wrong with me? Because the narcissistic person, through all the gaslighting, has convinced the other person there's something wrong with them. That's why the book is called It's Not You. Because people because over and over again, they're saying,
I haven't spruiked Dr. Ramani's book for a while. It's bloody good. She narrates it herself. It's on Audible. I don't read books anymore, but I definitely listen to books. I'm currently in an absolute hyper focus of Someone Knows Something, the CBC podcast from David Ridgen, but I digress. If you, Princey, if nothing else, Princey, if you have Audible, I would strongly suggest that you listen to It's Not You. It's so good. It's so good. It's so validating. She's so beautiful. It's beautiful. Everybody, but Princey particularly. Ask Mr. Princey if he can gift you an Audible subscription. Or I can send you some money to get an Audible subscription. I honestly, so good. 10/10.
Think, okay, maybe I said that wrong. Maybe I could say that better. They're always trying to find a way to get it righter. And by giving it a name, it's not meant to be dismissive. It's not even meant to say, walk away from this. I recognize that's not an option that's available to everyone. But it's really meant to say that this is a pattern. You're not losing your mind for saying something is not right here. And because it's a pattern, you can get to this place of radical acceptance, these sorts of entrenched, rigid behavioral patterns.
Sorry, Dr. Ramani, I'll skip back a bit. I get a lot out of Dr. Ramani too. Like, me sharing it with you is because I get so much out of it. She validates me a lot with my lived experiences. So we've all come in contact with people like this, whether it's intimately from parents or spouses or partners in the past, siblings, relatives, colleagues. We can all get a little bit of validation and tools to navigate through our future interactions with idiots like this.
Patterns that other person has no insight into are not going to change. and you can make your decisions accordingly. And so that's really what it is. I'm telling people, you're not losing your mind, that this is actually a pattern. And because over the years, many therapists have been reluctant to call this out. They'll say, well, they're not in this room, so I really can't comment on their behavior. The hell you can't. If you don't, this poor client is just wandering around the world wondering what's wrong with them. So it's about giving people education. It's about giving them validation. And above all else, it's about telling them that this kind of behavior is not okay. It's not okay for someone to abruptly say, well, I just say what's on my mind. I can't worry about how it affects other people. That's not okay. Doesn't mean that person's going to stop saying it, but it's giving a person permission for saying that behavior is not okay. It means that when I'm in the presence of it, it's okay to not feel okay. It's okay to disengage from it. It's probably not okay to engage with that person about the behavior, not because you don't have the right to, but because it's going to get you nowhere, and then they're going to rage at you, and what's the point? But it's to get people to the point of saying, like, yeah, there's certain behaviors that are just not acceptable, and I can make decisions on that basis, versus what we've always been taught of, like, well, there's always a way to connect with everyone. No, there's not.
It's part of the problem here when there's a reluctance to label things narcissism. It's part of the problem that it's a word that has some quite serious negative connotations, right? People
because
often,
it is negative,
I would say, misuse the term, and will, as the term becomes more and more common, people are calling all kinds of people narcissists. People will say, oh, my partner cheated on me, they're such a narcissist. Well, I don't think we can necessarily say that because they cheated, they're a narcissist. No. They might be, but they might not. So I wonder, I don't know, do you like...
Sorry, Dr. Chatterjee. That's why I go to great lengths to say narcissists, toxic people, assholes, because it's kind of like a spectrum, right? All the way through to diagnosable narcissistic personality disorder. But they use the same tactics. Maybe not. Like, it's when you get that. Remember that analogy? That Dr. Ramani made about baking a cake? So sure, flour and sugar and eggs and butter and vanilla essence, etc., are all ingredients to make a cake, but you need all the ingredients to make that cake, to make it an actual cake, right? So some people have some of the ingredients for narcissism, but they're probably not diagnosable narcissists. However, those ingredients, whether that be gaslighty shit or brain fart. Gaslighting is the only one that's coming to mind at the moment. Speaking down to you, being dismissive. Some of those things in separation, in isolation, make them not a very nice person to deal with. Calling you names, I don't know, whatever. Teasing you, but it's not funny. Not funny. I was just joking. That's gaslighting. Those things might make for assholes and toxic people who you can use the same management tools, strategies to either grey rock or separate, distance yourself from them. But it's when you get all of the ingredients that they tip over into being a cake of narcissism, a disgusting, vile cake of narcissism.
You like the words? Has it got too much negative baggage associated with it? Or do you still think it's a useful word for us to be using?
Isn't it a funny word, right? For a word that has so much negative baggage associated with it, the qualities that are encompassed within it are associated with success, right? So we will say, just this morning, was reading an article about someone, straight talker, speaks his mind, calls it out. He's so successful, billionaire, clear thinker. No, he's an unempathic, entitled bully. And those words showed up in the article too, but never did the word narcissist, right? The guy was clearly a narcissist that they were writing about, right? But the very qualities you need to succeed in capitalism are narcissism. So that's where everyone wants to be a narcissist. Then you got the big house, your parents are so proud of you. Isn't that great? But then we don't like the word. It's like, pick a lane, people, right? And so the word, though, does carry negative connotations. From the beginning, it's really only been showing up in the psychological literature. Probably late 1800s was the first time we saw Otto Rank, Sigmund Freud, even Havelock Ellis. These folks wrote about it. And it was never a good thing. It's never been a word that was good in psychology. I mean, we would say that the primary narcissism of the infant is normal, that the infant is entirely self-serving because it serves a survival capacity. But beyond that, we don't think of it as good. And so although we reward egocentricity, right? When we look at our economy, influencers and people who draw attention to themselves through good or bad ways are the ones who are making money, who hold power in society. That gets concerning, right? Because the bad word is resulting in good things, and yet people don't want to be called it, but they have those qualities and they succeed. So I think we're sort of in this kind of really recursive loop. But you're absolutely right. I don't know a single person out there, if you called them a narcissist, would be okay with it. Maybe a handful of people who are just sort of being snarky, but by and large, people don't like the word, right? So, and the other problem is the word is now being misused because it's a heavy word, because it's considered an unpleasant quality. You're right. The person who will go on TikTok and say, my boyfriend cheated on me, he's a narcissist. He may not be a narcissist. I mean, he was obviously not a very good boyfriend, but he may not be a narcissist. I'll say, you have to show me more. And, or anything that people might say. People will say, this person yelled at a flight attendant. I'm like, that's not okay.
Just
tell me more, right? So I think that we want to go right in there and assume this person's narcissistic because they did a bad thing that hurt you. And what's then happened is the word has lost some of its potency, which is concerning to me because it's a powerful and it's a meaningful word. And it describes a lot of things that go together. Instead of having to list all the ingredients that make the soup, I can just say soup and you know what I'm talking about. But unfortunately, the word has been really co-opted. We didn't use the word. I mean, I have to tell you, this is very much.
I remember my mother called, sorry, Dr. Ramani.
The mental health word.
That's better. I remember my mother referred to my father as being a narcissist. Oh, the irony. I'm like, yeah, now I know, like, two narcissists don't make a non-narcissist. Tony, sidebar, I've watched an interesting video by Dr. Sam Vadkin, who is another one of our Psychology Corner favorites, about capitalism. It's very interesting. Capitalism versus communism and capitalism in the States. I'll see if I can find it and I'll send you the link on the DM in the Discord because I feel like you might enjoy that. It's a bit dry for us all on Shorties. It's kind of super. I didn't even know the word. I didn't do that word. It's not psychology. It is psychology. I don't know. It's too financy. No, it's not finance. That. Sorry, Dr. Ramani. Get back to it. Off the side quest.
When I first started doing this work in the early 2000s, I mean, only people who use the word were the mental health profession.
Economics?
I mean, there was books in the 70s, like The Culture of Narcissism, Christopher Lash's book. Those came out and they had some popular reach, but it's not a word we used a lot. So this is really something that's come up a lot in the last 20, 25 years. It's changed in the world of politics, certainly since 2016 in the United States, even similarly in the UK. You have these very narcissistic politicians out there. That entire enterprise has become more like that. So we're seeing that the word is circulating more because those qualities are getting more and more rewarded in more and more public people. But I don't like how I'm seeing the word co-opted. It is a good word. People don't think of it as a nice word, but yet we still reward the behavior. So it's confusing.
Yeah. Once you're aware of this stuff, you can see those patterns sometimes quite clearly in the way people speak and how they interact or when they get challenged.
Thanks, Tony.
And I also think,
thank God,
about the misuse of the word, it's almost an inevitable consequence, isn't it? It's a bit like trauma. It's not been spoken about enough. Now it's been spoken about, which is great. But by amplifying the reach of these words, they are going to get misused a little bit. I'm not sure what you do about that apart from keep trying to educate people. Do you know what I mean?
100%. I mean, I'm glad you brought up the example of trauma because even within the field of people who study and treat trauma, there's a lot of controversy because if you talk to the old school folks, the folks who've been doing the trauma work since the 70s, back in those days, it was really like they had to fight to get, for example, even the people who were victimized by sexual assault to have that recognized as trauma, right? So they had to fight the fight for what we now know as trauma to even get that recognized. So then as time went on and other forms of trauma were recognized, betrayal trauma, relational trauma, there was now fight within the field. Like, what's big T trauma? What's small T trauma? And now, fast forward to now, and people will say, oh, someone was wearing the same dress as me at a party. It was such a trauma. I'm like, no. That's not a trauma, right? So it's we see these kinds of uses of these terms. And I think what happens is people then feel invalidated, because my biggest concern, frankly, is that when people are going genuinely through narcissistic relationships, like genuinely all of it is there, the harms are very, very clear. And when the word is misused and bandied about in these online spaces, it not only loses its potency, there's then a doubting of the experience of people who've been through these relationships. Oh, maybe you were just through a tough relationships, or maybe there was a problem with just you, thus reharming the people in these relationships. So I think, to me, the concern is that there is harm that comes to people who have been.
Sorry, Dr. Ramani, I can't stress enough how damaging it is to have people invalidate. Did I already say invalidate? Yes. Your experience with a narcissist by pollyannering that shit, by saying, oh, no, I can't imagine so-and-so being like that. Really? Why would I make that up? And so then, like, you're further traumatized after the treatment and behaviors you've been subjected to by said narcissist or toxic person or asshole or the cake of narcissism, to have people around you disbelieve you and minimize your experience, that you know what you've lived through. If it doesn't feel good and it damages you emotionally, mentally, then that's valid. It's so bad when people are like, oh, I can't imagine him being like that. No. Are you sure you're not like making a big deal out of nothing? No, I've been sitting on telling anybody about this for this very reason. So I can't stress enough how amazing it's been for me in recent months to have you, my beautiful friends, when I've shared the secrets of what I've been living through with certain people in my world of, in the last 6 months. For you almost nobody to have minimized it by saying, yeah, fuck, that's awful. So it's so important. If someone tells you that they're experiencing a dynamic with someone in their life, believe them. Because no one, unless you know that person to be a highly manipulative, lying McLiar who's just poor me, trying to get sympathy from anywhere, shape or form. If it's a genuine person who you know and trust and believe generally, then believe them. I can't stress enough how damaging it is to have people dismiss your lived experience and say, no, I can't imagine him being like that. My parents, lovely, they're great. They're great folk. Miss you guys. Not. Stay the fuck away from me until you die. I said what I said. Or until I die. You'll die first. Ooh. To have my parents say to me, when I was about to go to court for an intervention order against my son's father because of the physical and mental harm and abuse that he subjected me and my children to in our own home, for my parents to say, Lisa, we can't see any evidence of him ever being violent or abusive. You need to go to court and tell them you weren't being truthful. How does that make someone feel? To have the people who are supposed to be looking after you the most, and that's not just parents, that's friends, relatives, to say, no, that didn't happen, Lisa. Okay. So I did. Anyway, that was an extreme version of, if someone tells you that they're living through treatment and behaviors and verbiage that is damaging to you, to your well-being, to your mental health, to your emotional health, to your life, just believe them, because people don't make that shit up. Oh, I wasn't trying to, thank you, but that wasn't my point. My point was the point of just believe people. That was an extreme version. Honestly, it was on brand for my parents. It was like, okay, I'll do what you say then. Because why would I know anything? They think my parents think I'm an idiot. Like, yikes. Thanks. Right back at you, dickheads.
Been really through narcissistic relationships at any point in their lives, and that other people weaken the word, and then they are then doubted once again, because the experience of the survivor of the narcissistic relationship is to chronically be doubted by everyone, including their own selves. So that's my concern, and you're absolutely right. All we can do is keep educating, keep calibrating people, to what the right answer is.
It's
educate
hurtful,
mental
right,
health
Carlos?
professionals so they know it. So at least when somebody,
sorry again, Dr. Ramani, sorry.
And
oh, fuck. Sorry,
that
Dr. Ramani. Oh my God, I'm trying to get her off a dirty pause. It's so damaging to have people around. It's crazy making to have people around you say, "Oh, you're exaggerating. You're making a big deal out of nothing." No, I'm not. Thanks. I finally worked up the courage to say or do or tell someone, do something about it, to say something about it, to share my lived experience that I've been obsessing over, perseverating about, and living with for however long. And when you finally get the courage and people go, nah, no, you're making that up. Come on now. You're being too sensitive. Right.
Space, the person they're talking to has a better working model, because genuinely, this is not taught in graduate school. We do not teach clinicians about narcissism. We don't talk about it. We don't talk about what it does. And it's not even considered important enough to teach. So if we can at least do that, then the people who are getting the information can support folks who are going through it.
So the subtitle on your new book is Identifying and Healing from Narcissistic People. Okay, let's take that in two parts. Identifying. So you have mentioned some of these traits and behaviors. What else do people need to know, perhaps, to identify that someone in their life is exhibiting narcissistic behaviors? Is just knowing that list enough? Or do they need to know other things? You mentioned before a term, gaslighting. You've written about lovebombing. I mean, maybe we need to speak to some of these other terms to really help people understand that, yes, this is or this might be going on in my life.
Yeah, understanding the laundry list of how it shows up in a person, like the traits, if you will, that's step one. Step two is understanding the relationship dynamics that accompany those traits. Okay. It's almost like
colors. You have built the hardest, thickest castle walls, the deepest, widest moat around yourself. And I'm very happy for you that that's your protection. Because that's a good way to protect oneself from shit. Just like, whatever, not going to engage, compartmentalize. However one can cope. But if you're seeking out some support and you don't get it, that can be heartbreaking. Most people don't have that ability to just shake it off.
It's like view the traits, and then step one is understanding the traits. Step two is understanding what motivates the narcissistic person. And that's simple. That takes me a second, which is they're motivated by power, control, dominance, and getting narcissistic supply, which is getting admired and revered and validated. And then power and dominance obviously give that to them all the time. So they want asymmetric relationships. They want relationships where they're in the power position, where it's all about them, where they're constantly getting validated. So that's what's motivating them. So in a way, it's like, now you know how they're playing the chess game. It's always going to be a power move. Everything they're doing is to overpower and dominate, so they help hold the upper hand. That then takes us to the dynamics, how it shows up in a relationship. So the patterns you see in narcissistic relationships are, first of all, there's a cycle to these relationships. They often start off, and right now I'm talking more about adult relationships we sort of choose. People we date, people we work with, people we're friends with.
Theoretically,
Talk about families and parents.
Sometimes they choose us,
right? Because we don't choose them. But in the relationships we choose, narcissistic people are very charming, charismatic, confident, in a strange way can even be very comforting. They are well put together. They're attractive. This is exactly what we're told we're supposed to look for in a person. So we were talking about all this lack of empathy, entitlement, arrogance, not so nice. Charm, charisma, confidence. It's hard to undersell those, right? We're told those are good qualities, attractiveness. So they have all this stuff we're told is good. People get drawn in. And early in the relationship, it can feel otherworldly. It can feel fairy tale. People will say, I felt understood like I've never been felt before. I felt seen. I felt heard. The narcissistic person's a sprinter. They can give anywhere from 4 to 12 good, really good weeks. 4 to 12 weeks is a long time.
I found this really interesting. For me, it used like even shorter. It depends how love bombing and fast tracky they are with their ensnarement tactics. If it's an emotional entanglement, I feel like it's my radars used to be going off at about 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Now, give me a week. Give me a couple of days.
Time when you're caught in some sort of love story or intense friendship story, but it's usually a love story. Then the devalue phase starts. And in the devaluing phase is where we see sort of the more classical narcissistic relationship behaviors kick in. The dismissiveness, the invalidation, minimization, gaslighting, manipulation, rage. You might see betrayal. You'll see deceit. You see it runs hot and cold. And that's why the narcissistic relationship is so confusing. There'll be a couple of good days. You'll have some good sex. You'll have a fun weekend. And then boom. And you'll have no idea what's setting them off at first. So you blame yourself. You're like, how is it we had such a good time last night? And they go to work and they come home and they're raging at me. So people are like, what did I do? Like, did I leave something out? Did I say something? And then the narcissistic person might even, like I said, double down on that. Like, oh, if only this house was a little cleaner, or only how come you don't ask me about my day? Or how come you don't tell me I'm great? And then you start saying, oh, I'm going to have to tell them they're great. So you can see how this starts getting to be a really confusing cycle, because then there's another good day and you're like, oh, I must have just been misperceiving that. That's me. God, they had a tough day at work. And that cycle of hot, cold, good, bad, on, off creates something called the trauma bond, where a person engages in a lot of justification. They're very confused. They blame themselves. They doubt themselves. They start to justify the relationship because there's enough good days to keep them in. It's not always bad. And then there's what we call more of a discard cycle, which is when the narcissistic person may withhold or withdraw, maybe cheat on you, lie to you, or a person tries to get out of the relationship because they're getting burned out on it. And the final cycle, which doesn't always happen, is something called hoovering. Word makes more sense to you in the UK, vacuuming, right? Hoovering, sucking a person back in. Narcissistic people are about control and dominance. So when you get out or it ends or they leave you, and their life doesn't go the way they want, or they just want your supply back, your admiration and validation, or it's a cat and mouse game. Can I get them back?
Even the hoovering, the sucking you back in, they test the waters just like grooming. They'll come back and see how receptive you are to letting them back in past that no contact or that grey rock. It's so predictable. And it comes in all different forms. It might be reaching out with a text message. It might be liking your social media posts again, if you haven't blocked them. It might be coming back into chat here and, I don't know, dropping some gifted memberships or something. Like I see you. Get the fuck out of here.
They will then try to suck you back in. That doesn't always happen. But this sort of idealization, devaluation cycle is classical in these relationships. And it is cloaked in all this manipulation and confusion, but it's peppered with those good days. And that right there is the narcissistic relationship.
You know, Dr. Ramani, one of the...
yeah, Lainey, it's easier to not... it's easier for everybody if we don't get too political, if that's okay. It's just kind of a chat rule. We talked a little bit of like fun politics in the last one, but we generally try to stay away from generalizing. We generalize. I'm with you on the fact that Trump is 100% a narcissist, more even, but also I think probably all world leaders are. Just some of them are more maniacal with it. I don't know. So we'll just keep if we can just keep it away from the politics, so we don't end up with friction in the chat, because that makes it really hard for me to manage and to stay upbeat when it goes off the rails.
One of the most striking things to me as I was reading your latest book was that term you just mentioned, supply, narcissistic supply, it really got me to pause and reflect, because we normally think of that term supply in the context of drugs, don't we?
Yeah.
Not in the context of human behavior, but I thought it was really interesting. Why did you feel that was the word that described so well what a narcissist needs?
Well, you know what's so interesting about the world of narcissistic relationships is this really interesting vocabulary has developed around it that survivors use: flying monkeys and love bombing and narcissistic supply and breadcrumbing and all these other words that are very descriptive. So this concept of narcissistic supply, I did not come up with this term. It's been around for a while. It is this idea of it's the one-sided, one-way admiration and validation. And that doesn't just come from people saying, it's not just praise, right? It can be money, it can be status, it can be proximity to...
Pause, sorry, Dr. Ramani. So, status. I'm not saying I'm all that. I'm a very tiny fish in a vast ocean. I'm like Dory in the ocean of YouTube, right? Literally. But I can think of 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 men since I've been live streaming, so a year, who have been drawn to the status of Miss Shorty, because, okay, true though, other small fish in this vast ocean, and wanting to get their narcissistic supply from me because I'm so giving and so bright, mostly, as in bright and fucking professional, like a fucking delight. And wanting to get their supply from me, knowing that I am hyper aware of things, spruiking their wares under the guise of being empaths. Oh, the number. Oh my God, all of them. Like, I'm like, okay, don't tell, please, no, but please, sir, nobody tell me you're an empath. I'll decide, because I can decide. And it's one of those Trojan horses that covert narcissists do. Covert narcissists are best at that. Vulnerable narcissists are the ones that go, woo, before me, because they've got that dark empathy, right? That dark empathy to be able to read other people, but they use it for evil, not good. They use it for their own narcissistic supply. Back to Dr. Ramani.
Famous or notorious or wealthy people. It can be having a very attractive partner. It can be, again, so in other words, your attractiveness in their presence is supply. It can be flirtation. It can be sex. All of these things can be supply. It's anything that feeds that need for admiration and soothes the narcissistic person's fragile ego.
Yeah, interesting. Gaslighting. That, I think, is another term that is growing in popularity, or certainly growing in its use. Could you explain what gaslighting actually is?
So gaslighting is a tool of psychological manipulation that involves dismantling the reality of the other person to destabilize them, and then to double down on that destabilization by confirming that that there's something wrong with the person being gaslighted. So that's a long way of saying that you doubt the memories, experiences, perceptions, physical environment of a person. Okay, so that's one step of gaslighting. In order for gaslighting to happen, there has to be some trust in the relationship, right? You have to, it could be a family member, it could be a partner, it could even be a friend, it could even be an expert, like a physician. All of these people are in a position where there's some level of trust, so they're in a position to be able to gaslight, right? Because even if it's a trust you have of a parent or a sibling or something like that. Then they, again, doubt reality, experience, perception. I never said that. You're remembering that wrong. I didn't put the keys there, that kind of thing. They then tell the person there's something wrong with them. Okay. I don't know. I'm a little worried about you. You're getting really paranoid. Like, you didn't see that text. I didn't send that text. And I've been noticing like you're getting weirder. Like, have you seen a doctor? So it's a real, like, I'm worried about you. They'll even say, I'm worried about you. So there's now this sense of there's something wrong with the person who's now already been told you've remembered something wrong, right?
So do you need both of those?
Yes.
For this to be gaslighting? Because the first example that maybe you could take the perspective that two people have a difference in opinion over.
So this is an important distinction. This is a mind blow. So gaslighting isn't just a differing of opinion. Gaslighting is when you know something to be not true, or a situation to have occurred or not occurred, and so on. If the other person just genuinely misremembers it or remembers it differently to you or doesn't agree with you, that's not gaslighting. It's when the other person like outright states that you're wrong, you're mistaken, and that there's no validity to your remembering. It's the undermining of that opinion or that recollection, which is where gaslighting comes into play. Yes, crazy making shit, Cheryl. Abso-fucking-lutely.
Over a certain event, or people are recalling an event differently, but that's not gaslighting.
That's not gaslighting.
Okay.
No, so if they say,
just let them speak, Lisa.
Says, you said da da da, and the person says, I don't remember saying that, and the other person says, yes, you did. Here's the text. And the other person's like, okay, I said it, or you're right. I don't remember saying it. That's not gaslighting. Okay. They genuinely don't remember. But when the person showed them evidence, they're like, okay, clearly I said it. If a person does that with a gaslighter, so if you show the gaslighter evidence, right? Because you think like, done, I've won, right? The gaslighter will say, what kind of sick person walks around showing text messages to people like, oh, I guess our relationship's a court of law now? Is that what this is? I don't know that I want to be in a relationship like this, because the ultimate play the gaslighter has is to threaten abandonment. So if you push them too hard, especially with the evidence base, that's when they'll say, you know what? I don't think I want to be in a relationship with a crazy person. I'm not interested in this. I'm not interested in living in a tribunal. So sure, gotcha. I hope you feel better about yourself that you had the text. You feel good.
I'm not even kidding. My most recent experience with a disgusting, vile, narcissistic piece of shit was almost these exact conversations and scenarios verbatim. Like, it's textbook shit. Like, it wasn't funny then. It's funny now because I've extricated myself, gone, bye, miss me. Like, fuck right off. Don't ever come back. But these people, if they weren't so toxic and destructive and like life-changingly injurious to people's sense of self, it'd be funny. Because it's ludicrous, but when you're all in it, in that fog of that spellbound, coercive control, distorted reality, it's not funny at all, and it's not funny afterwards. Except right now, it's funny to me because clown show.
Feel good now? Mm-hmm. You showed me who's boss. Yeah, I'm not interested in this. Now that other person, they didn't want to end the relationship.
Sorry. I had this person screaming at me for at least 5 minutes, screaming at me down the phone in the middle of the night in your country, in their country, screaming, raging with someone else in the house because I called them out on one of their very provable failings, like being wrong on something. They lost their fucking minds. Wow. Just so much bluster. Oh, it wasn't funny then. I mean, that was me. I went, okay, well, we're done here. So that, yeah. I could look back now and say it was funny, but fuck, it wasn't funny then.
They just wanted to say, this is what you said. And so now that other person puts that phone down and says, no, that's not what this is about. No, come on, back up. And boom, gaslighter's back in power.
So many patients tell me that life just feels like a blur because of the pressures that so many of us face. The busyness, the overwhelm, the endless to-do list. I've heard it time and time again.
No, sorry, man. I don't want to. Oh! Journals. If you want a journal, he's got one.
Are on some level covering up for a deep insecurity. So it sounds to me as though when that person gets shown the evidence that they, were wrong, or they actually did say that thing, you're getting so close to the bone of exposing that
that's right.
There's almost like an equal or even more vicious response than had you never shown them the evidence in the first place. Because the evidence, you're getting too close to the truth, and they can't afford for that truth to be exposed. So they have to, go out full out attack, basically. Is that a fair description?
My bad.
That's a very fair description. And because, like I said, most people just
that truth to be a more vicious response.
Carry on, sir.
Than had you never shown them the evidence in the first place. Because the evidence, you're getting too close to the truth, and they can't afford for that truth to be exposed. They have to, go out full out attack, basically. Is that a fair description?
That's a very fair description. And because, like I said, most people just want to create a space of transparency and equity and accountability in the relationship. They don't want to end the relationship. That the gaslighter then is not only explodes, further destabilizing the other person, but then they threaten the thing that the other person doesn't want. And if the other person really doesn't want that, they're going to take action, if you will. They don't want to end it. They don't want it to be that. And then that might put the brakes on. The gaslighter is now in that position of power. So and remember, gaslighting doesn't happen once. It happens day after day after day. So over time, a person in a gaslighted relationship feels very silenced, because now they know there's no point in showing the evidence. There's no point in calling them out. And there might be enough times where there is no evidence, right? There's none of that a person's like, did I remember that wrong? Or I thought I had the right date. Or so it's, we're all very busy people. So it's plausible. Many times the thing that the gaslighter gaslights about is plausible. But the challenge is that many people are using gaslighting to say it's just a disagreement. It's not a disagreement. It's not a difference of opinion. It's none of those things. So if a person says, I like pepperoni pizza, and the other person says, no, I like cheese pizza, and the other person says pepperoni pizza is better, that's not gaslighting. That's just a difference of opinion.
Yes.
So I think people are using the word, or even just saying things like a person might have moved the remote control for the TV and not remembered they moved it. And that's not gaslighting, right? Moving the remote control, somebody moving the remote control and then lying about moving it to drive another person crazy, that's gaslighting.
Boom.
What's love bombing?
So love bombing is that intense indoctrination into a new narcissistic relationship. Traditionally, we think of love bombing as the sort of fairy tale, full court press, texts in the morning, afternoon, and evening, fancy dates, picnics on the beach, great sex.
Pause. Sorry, Dr. Ramani. I have to. It's been at least six that's come to mind, because I forgot about the most recent one, which I was like, yeah, no, bye. Bye. Just call back. Carry on, Dr. Ramani. Call back. Oh, didn't press play.
You take a big, fabulous vacation on your fourth date. It's everything. It's many times love bombing.
Yeah, same, Simi. But these guys, depends how big the power is they have over you, right? How deeply ensnared you are. I'm trying to think. I can't recall of late. Once I'm kind of the same. Once I'm done, but it doesn't mean they don't try, right? Come back for a second crack at it, third, fourth. I've got men from my life from when my son was a toddler. He's turning 14 in December, apparently. They still come around decades later. Yeah, it takes a long time. Dr. Ramani. She's startled.
Bombing happens very quickly. And during the love bomb phase, a person feels overwhelmed, but it's not always that. Sometimes love bombing can show up as, let's say they're very open with the things that have gone wrong for them. So the narcissistic person is more of my life has just been so hard. I'm so lucky I've met someone like you who gets it. You're so warm. You're so empathic. You're amazing. That's love bombing too, right? So it's not a lot of bells and whistles. It's just hitting someone and it's giving them the thing, the other person, or the narcissistic person is giving that other person exactly the experience they want. During the love bombing phase, the narcissistic person is very attentive. Narcissistic people are very, very socially perceptive. They're in a strange way, in a twisted, dark, bleak way, they can actually be quite emotionally intelligent. They can read the room beautifully in a strange, again, in a very self-serving way, but they can.
Yeah.
And because of that, they're very skilled in the first few weeks and months of knowing someone at tapping into their vulnerabilities, getting them to fess up to their greatest fears, their greatest concerns. They listen to the conversation. They realize where the pressure points are and they file them away because they're going to use them against that person later. So what feels like intense attentiveness, sort of everyone's fantasy, especially if a person had emotionally unavailable parents, it really feels like a love story.
Yeah.
So there's an intensity to love bombing. In some cases, love bombing may simply be someone who spends 24/7 with you. People will say, well, our first date lasted 4 days kind of thing. I'm
Red
always
flag.
like, that's a red flag right off the bat to me, because it overwhelms. And person will say, oh my gosh, we spent like 2 weeks together every single day. Before you know it, we moved in together. Intensity of contact, frequent contact, quickly, like it overtakes a person's life. Isolation could also sort of quietly happen during the love bombing phase. You spend all your time with this person. You're not spending time with your friends or family. You may even sort of change out your work schedule. So you got pulled away from your sort of touchstones and landmarks, as it were. So over that time, in the love bombing phase, you're getting indoctrinated into something, believing that this person hung the moon. This is your love story. This is the greatest love story ever. There's a lot.
The number of times I've heard that, and you want to desperately believe. I do. Not anymore. I'm like, yeah, nah. I'm back to there's no such thing as happily ever after, but for the chosen few. Not now. There's just not. I'm so too skeptical. Hey, we're gonna let Dr. Ramani finish up on sorry about the dirty pause, Dr. Ramani, this point, and then I think we're gonna do a part 2 of this because we've been streaming for 7 hours now. So the dog is sick of it. We'll string it to a part 2 next Friday night. At this time, I'll be on Feral Friday, publicly buzzed. So we'll only be doing the week that was next week on Friday night, just FYI. So this one we'll probably do part 2 of this in 2 weeks. If you can't wait, the link to the OG, the original stream, the video is in the description box.
A lot of that flowery language, a lot of soulmate talk, a lot of magical connection talk. It's the sort of metaphysical stuff that, in fact, this person, at this point, you're so kind of dazzled by this bright light in your face that you're not really able to see what's happening. I used this example with someone once, like, when you're driving into the setting sun and it's so bright, you really can't see the other cars. It's actually a little bit dangerous, but it's pretty. It's a sunset.
Great analogy.
It's dangerous because you can't see the other stuff that's going on.
Great
And
analogy.
during that love bombing phase, you start to feel so like, I have to make this work. I want to make this work. And then it forms a lot of the foundation of this trauma bond, of this justification material. We had such a good time. I've never been treated so well. They're everything I want. And you keep going back to that, even when the relationship starts turning bad, which it will turn bad in anywhere from like 4 weeks to about 3 to 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be really clear on something there.
Pause. Sorry, Dr. Chattergee, Nipples, Dr. Nipples. So we're 1 hour in. Chat, thank you so much. We will come back to that, excuse me, as I said, in a couple of weeks. If only I had more time available that we could do all the live streaming. I'd be even more poor as a church mouse, but we'd be able to get through things a bit faster. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Ms. What the Fuck, for running polls for us, doing things in Stream Elements while we were live just now. Thank you, beautiful mods. Thank you, beautiful chatters, friends. This one has been a good watch, right, Tony? I'm gonna say it frustrates me so much that more people don't know how good we are over here. A beautiful community. We learn a lot. We have such a diverse range of stuff we cover. We're so kind and supportive. Thank you all so much for being here. So spread the word. If you know someone who you think might enjoy coming along to Camp Shorty, Let them know how good we are here. So much fun. So kind and loving. We learn shit. We laugh. We get a bit feral sometimes. Tony talks about Trojan horse dingers. So with that, shall we go out with the heartstrings being tugged with the perennial favorite, Chatty's Bay. Don't forget, once this stream has ended, please could you leave a comment and we'll interact a little bit on the stream. If you're going to share it or watch it again, watch it all the way through. Even if you skip through to the end, fuck, I don't know, algorithm shit. I don't know what the fuck, and I am doing a fair bit of research to try and see what we're doing wrong in terms of our reach. I don't think my potty mouth helps very much. And my refusal to censor myself to ridiculous YouTube-friendly words. I just won't. That's assault. But I'll see you all tomorrow night. I think we're kicking off early, all times subject to clock drift. But theoretically, 4 Eastern tomorrow, we'll see. That's 6 a.m. my time on a Sunday. I generally need about minimum 3 hours. In a perfect world, 4 hours from when I open my eyes to when we live stream. So that's a 2 a.m. up on Sunday. I'm not sure how keen I am on that, but we'll see. So will Lisa be on time? There's absolutely no way. It happens about once a month. 8-Ball has to know. What is 8-Ball going to say? How does it know? I don't understand how 8-Ball works. Well, it wasn't a yep either. No. Were we on time for this stream? I think maybe yes. Thank you, Lainey. Yes, we love having you here. It's always fun. Like, there's a lot of crossover between Publicly Buzzed and our community. Unfortunately, there's a lot of times when Publicly Buzzed is also live at the same time I'm live. I can't go live any other times. Like, I can't. I have to do my real world work shit, and the time difference fucks me. Because, like, just anyway, thank you, everybody. I love you all very much. Go and go forth into your Friday night, and get ready for the weekend. And I'll see you tomorrow, 4 Eastern. And then tomorrow night after that, after we do day 3 of the Maxwell Anderson trial, that fucking guy, hydrant head, we're doing a kick watch party. It's an hour episode, 50-minute episode 1 of Murder in Boston. I'll see you all tomorrow night. I love you all very much. Peace.
I love you all so very much. We had a blast just chatting and stuff. Things may have gone a bit off the rails. Professional when all else fails. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say. Emotes and all the caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. We're skating through all the tough things, learning about this and that, defense motions, prosecution, and narcissistic twats. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say. Emotes and all the all caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. Community, just you and me. Occasionally, Buster and Poppy. It's the whole thing. Miss Shorty swing. Together we make each other happy.